Okay, hey, I am recording this video just to help you understand a little bit about how we approach learning about division with remainders. And one of the things that we try to review pretty often in class is just to remember that this year, if I understand this correctly, we're learning arithmetic. And arithmetic is all about counting. That's what it is. And a couple of things that we've talked about this year too is that if we're made in the image of God, there are two very specific things that we can do that no other part of His creation can do. And that is, we can speak, we use language, just like God spoke the world into existence, and Jesus is the Word of God made man. And then also, we can count, we can calculate, we can use numbers, we can understand that language that God has written into the universe that makes itself known through number. And so, those are two really important things we need to understand. Why do we learn grammar and read stories and learn how to write? And why do we learn math? And part of the reason is that as human beings who are made in God's image, we want to cultivate and enjoy those ways in which we are like Him. We can speak, we can use language, and we can also use the language of number or count and do math. So, with that being said, there's just a couple of little concepts that we review pretty regularly when we talk about arithmetic and counting. Addition, first of all, the four operations of math or of arithmetic are addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. And we've talked about how addition and multiplication are kind of like brothers, and subtraction and division are kind of like brothers, because addition and multiplication are all about taking two smaller numbers or smaller groups, equal groups, and bringing them together into one larger number or one larger whole. Now, subtraction and division are all about starting with that larger number, the larger whole, and then breaking them down into smaller numbers or smaller equal groups. So, division, we need to remember that when we are doing division, we're beginning with a larger whole, and then we are dividing it down into smaller equal groups. So, with that being said, we kind of hearkened back to this book that we used at the very beginning of the school year called The Warlord's Beads. And we experimented with place value, trying to understand place value through this story about the Warlord's Beads. So Ada and I kind of made up our own story, and I used this a little bit in class as well. I'm going to make sure that this is not turning off. And so the other day, I told Ada, basically, I'm the warlord. I think she may feel like that sometimes, actually. And she is, she's our treasurer. She works in my treasury. And I have some gold pieces. And I need you, Ada, to count these gold pieces for me. And I have 5 children. I have 3 sons, and I have 2 daughters. And I need you to figure out how I can share my gold with my 5 children. I want them to have an equal amount. So, Ada, first of all, I need to know how many gold pieces I have. I don't even know how many gold pieces I have. So I'm going to need you to take care of that for me. So could you do that, please, for me?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11.
Okay, so how many gold pieces do I have?
11.
Okay, I have 11 gold pieces. Now, please help me figure out how I can share those with my 5 precious children.
I'm going to make 5 groups.
Okay, so show me that. Just make the group.
1 in each.
Okay, can you count the groups for me real quick? Just count the groups.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
So you have 5 groups. Okay, now what are you going to do next?
And I'm going to keep adding to the groups 1 by 1.
Okay.
And then I'm going to have 1 remainder.
Okay, so pause just right there for a second. How many do you have? How many gold coins so far? If I want each of my children to get an equal amount, I want to be fair. How many gold coins are each of my kids going to get?
2.
Okay, they're each going to get 2, but it looks like 1 remains. 1 remains. 1 is left over. As my treasurer, what do you suggest that I do with that 1 that remains? Can I give it to one of my children?
No.
No, why not?
Because that would give one child the unequal number.
Ah, yeah, because I want them to have an equal amount. I want to be fair. So it wouldn't be fair, right, for me to give it to 1. The 1 that remains would not be fair to give away.
Would be you have to subtract.
Well, we don't have to do that. Here, can I just have my gold coin? Tell you what, I'm going to just keep the 1 that remains. Maybe I'll use it some other time. But at least I know that each of my kids are going to get an equal amount. I'll be able to share my 11 coins, gold coins, with my 5 children, and they'll each get 2, and it'll be nice and fair and even. Do you agree? Okay, now here's the next question. We've got a little problem, all right? I need you, Ada, to record on a piece of paper, or maybe papyrus in this situation, because we're talking about ancient times, ancient China.
Like that papyrus?
Yeah. I need you to record exactly what you just did. I need to have a written record of the process that you went through to count my coins. But here's the catch. All we have are pictures. We live far back enough in ancient China that we don't have any written numbers. We don't have any symbols for add, subtract, divide, whatever, right? Multiply. We don't have those symbols. So what are you going to have to do? If you're going to provide for me, the warlord, a written record of what you just did, what are you going to have to do?
You're going to...
No? Oh, I see. Now, hold on just a second, though. Is that the first step that you did in the process of dividing up my coins equally for my children? No. What was the very first thing that you had to do?
Count them.
Okay, so show me. Just show me what they looked like. What did they look like here on the table? Okay, so how many coins do you have there?
10. I mean 11.
You have 11. Okay. Now leave that picture there and show me a picture of the next thing that you did.
And then
Okay. Now I have a question, Ada. Okay, no, that's good. You can do that. Aha. So then, just explain to me, what does this picture mean? What happened between here and there?
This means there were 11 coins. I divided them into 5 equal parts.
Okay.
And I had 1 remainder.
Okay, you had one remainder. Very good. You had one that remains. Now, this is pretty simple, right? Because we're only working with 11 coins. But imagine, what if we had 100 coins? Okay? And what if I had to write out in pictures to make a record of what I did when I was counting the money?
That'd take days.
Oh my goodness, it would take days.
Okay.
Imagine if every time you had a math problem, a division problem, you had to write pictures of every single step.
Especially if you had to do thousands.
Oh, it'd be horrible. It would take days and days and days just to write enough pictures for one math problem, right?
How did you even get through school without having to go back to math?
I don't know. So over time, God gave us the ability, He gave us the language of math.
He's a miserable.
Yes. And instead of drawing pictures for every single process that we went through to count something, let me back up for a minute. You kind of see this when we talked about hieroglyphs and cuneiform in the beginning of the year.
Are easier because you're not having to write out 100 circles. You're just kind of writing your own little picture that you think is 100.
Yeah. Well, very good. So hieroglyphs, remember, the ancient Egyptian people and other cultures, they wrote out their entire history on the walls of caves.
They also used that.
Papyrus, yes, very good.
And this is really a picture from
yes.
Egypt.
So they wrote out their entire history on the walls of caves and in the tombs of the pharaohs in pictures. And there's thousands and thousands and thousands of pictures. But getting back to number, eventually, over little by little, people figured out how to use pictures and symbols to record what they were doing, like in this case, when they're counting money and dividing it up, but being able to make it a much shorter form. And so, I just want to show you this real quick. Over time, we began to understand that, I'm going to do it just real quick, okay? We began to understand, we developed the language of math, and we realized that we could make pictures that represent the number 11, like our 11 gold pieces that we have here. All right, so we have 11 written up here on the board. 11 can stand for gold pieces, it can stand for candy, it can stand for pencils,
it can
books,
stand for markers and pens,
anything that you want to count.
even hairspray.
So you don't have to draw a bunch of pictures of coins or other kinds of things. You can just have this picture of 11. All right? So we started out with 11 gold pieces. And then I told my trusty treasurer here that we needed to share that with my 5 children. So rather than having to write out the words shared with, as she's making a record of what she did when she counted the money for me, she could say, you began with 11 pieces of gold, and you wanted to share them with your 5 children, okay? So I need to know how many each one of those children are going to get. So the first thing that you did is you divided them into groups, okay? So if we look over here, one of the things that you saw in your classical math book this week is a process known as divide, multiply, subtract. And then there's also B for bring down. We're not going to have to use this today, but that's going to be something that we cover eventually.
And that means dad, mother,
sister, and brother. That's right. That's how they present it in classical math as well. A mnemonic to help you memorize and remember what the order of these letters are. Dad, mother, sister, brother, divide, multiply, subtract, bring down. Okay? So, we have been able to use so far numbers and symbols to record the first two steps of what Ada did here as she was dividing up the coins. So, she counted 11 coins. She knew that they needed to be shared with, that symbol represents shared with 5 children. Okay? So now, she's going to do what she actually did here was this first step. She divided them up. So Ada, when you divided them up, how many went into equal groups did you end up with? How many did they have in each group? Very good. They had 2 in each group. So you write that 2. I'm just going to move it over just a little bit here in this ones place, directly above the ones place here of this 11. And then
since you have 1 left over.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so we've done the division. We divided 11 into equal groups of 2. All right, and now we were able to see, just looking here at our coins, that there was one that remained. One that remained right there in the middle. But one way that we can show on our in our process, one way that we can show what we did is that we can now multiply 5 times 2, okay? Or when we say we ended up with 5 groups of 2, all right? So that's, hold on one second, that's the multiply step. So we're going to go ahead and write down how many of these coins did we actually use when we divided them into 5 groups of 2. So Ada, how many are 5 groups of 2?
10.
Okay, so write 10 right there below the 11. Very good. Now, if we want to be able to show how many were left over, now we subtract. So Ada just wrote a subtraction symbol there. Aha. And how many are left over?
1.
1.
So you put remainder.
1 remains. Your remainder is?
1.
Very good. Your remainder is 1. Now, Ada, I have a question. Is this easier than having to draw pictures?
Mm-hmm.
Very good. So, this dad, mother, sister, brother, or divide, multiply, subtract, bring down, which again we'll cover later, is the process that we go through or that we went through here with actual objects as we're counting them, because arithmetic is about counting. And the way that this helps, hold on just one second, is that when you get bigger and bigger and bigger numbers, it provides a really easy, quick way to make a record of how you would divide those things out. And so let's say, for example, again, if you had 1,000 coins, well, all you need to know, somebody's going to have to count them. They'll always have to do that step. But once you know that you have 1,000 coins, you can easily begin writing down the symbols and dividing them up, following this process without having to do it all by hand, okay? So that's kind of what we talked about in class. I just wanted you to be able to see, and for those of you who are already familiar with the Math and Focus concept of CPA, where you have a concrete example, which was our golden coins here, and then a pictorial example, which was Ada drawing the pictures up here and realizing how long that would take if we had to do that every time, to abstract. Abstract is using these the pictures of numbers and the symbols for arithmetic to be able to have a quick, easy, simple process to go through to be able to count and see how many equal groups of any object we can have, okay? So yes.
Is it 5 times 2, 10? Because if 5 times 2 is 11, you have to, 5 times 2 isn't 11 because 10.
Yeah, because you can't divide 11 into 5 equal groups.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so that's what we're just writing down. Whenever we put this 10 here, we're saying, okay, when we divided them into 5 groups of 2, we realized that 1 remains. This was our remainder. And we would not be able to have equal groups if we tried to put that into one of our groups. So we're going to put that aside, we're going to save it, and we're going to make sure that the warlord's children have equal 2 coins apiece. Okay? So, I hope that's helpful. That's the way we presented it in class. I added a few things here, but in general, that was how we did it in class, and I hope that's helpful. Some of you may absolutely hate this. You're like, just give me the process. But it's good for us all to be exposed to both ways of looking at this, and hopefully it'll resonate with every student in the class by being exposed to both different ways of doing it. So, hope this is helpful. We'll see you all soon. Bye.